officially on the Rideau Canal. There's a used to be marina, don't know what it was. I'm gonna look it up. When I find it, I'll put the name on the screen, but obviously it is fully shut down. Nothing there but a bunch of derelict docks, a Mercruiser sign, and one old, I'm gonna say that's a early 70s Starcraft. Yeah, my parents had the same one. Oh, family, a 24-footer. Solid boat. They're like little pontoons. Yeah, pontoons. That one's sinking. So this is the 401 highway bridge. 401, for those of you who are not local, this is the major highway artery that runs east-west from Windsor, Ontario, right over to Montreal, Quebec, and beyond. But the last time we would have drove over this bridge by car was a year ago, almost a year ago, when we had our failed attempt to go to New York, the state of New York, to look at one of these boats. And that, I think I talked about that before, so look it up on my channel if you want to hear that sad story. But I'm happy, we are happy that that one did not come to fruition. It would have been, there was definitely something wrong with that boat, because from what we saw, it only recently sold, and that's almost a year later. So there was issues that we couldn't find out about, and since we couldn't cross the border, we were actually escorted out of the state of New York. That was funny, because we weren't allowed to go in and do that. So here we are, we just now passed 401, and we are getting out of, it appears to be the marshy looking area, and more into the Canadian Shield rock, the granite rock. And should be right around the corner. It will be our first set of locks that we got to go through at Kingston Mills. Look at that, our very first lock on the Trans-Severn Waterway. Retake? No, first lock ever on the Rideau Canal, and so far so good. It's a really windy day, so I was a little concerned about the wind pushing us in as we came in, but yeah, not an issue. So we're in here with one other boater. They had a condition here at the lock where when we pulled up, as you saw, the lock was already, this first chamber was already up. This is a flight lock of 3, and it was up, and they couldn't get one of the gates open. Apparently one of the chains broke or whatever, so they had to drain this to get at the chain, and now they're taking us both up at the same time because, like I say, it's a flight lock of 3 locks, plus there's a small little, got to go around a bit of a corner, a couple hundred feet, and to another, the 4th lock. So I asked the lock master, or sorry, one of the lock staff, and he said it's probably going to take about an hour and a half to transition all through this. So they were good enough to drop the boat that's already in this one so we could all go up, that we could both go up together. Was fun. That was about 2 hours total from tying up the blue line to get through the 4 locks. Again, 3 flight locks in together, and then that upper chamber. So we are going, and I'm going slow because I'm going to take it easy, but we are currently on a body of water called Colonel By Lake. And Colonel By was the British officer who was in charge of designing and constructing this way back almost 200 years ago. 1829, I think it opened. I should know that date on the screen. So since this was, I guess, the first lake that was created from damming, putting the locks in, it was named in his honor. I'm sure of it. A little bit of irony on the opposite end at the very top, which is Ottawa. There is a series of 8 flight locks that go right down into the Ottawa River. We're not going to do that on this trip, but that area of Ottawa is known as Bytown in his honor. Good to you. So you're asking yourself, why would a British officer be in charge of building a canal in Canada? Well, 2 things. First reason being that back in 1829-ish, or earlier when they were planning this, Canada was not yet a country. This part of the world was still a British colony. And with that in mind, the British had fears that these, our pesky neighbors to the south, might consider invading Canada. Because remember, this isn't that far after the War of 1812. After that, the British thought that if the Americans were to attack on the Great Lakes, they should have an escape route. So this was basically an escape route up to Ottawa and the Ottawa River, and then from there they could go over to Montreal or vice versa. Luckily, we are all friends and good neighbors, so we don't have to worry about that now. And the only American invaders that might find their way up here are boaters, mainly loopers coming to share this beautiful waters, share the beauty of these waterways, I should say, and see what it's all about up here. Now it's 20 after 1. I know we've only gone through 1 lock so far, but these are the first 2 boats that we have had approaching us. There was nothing coming down through that lock. And this is it, yeah, first couple of boats. Of course, first one has got to be a Sea Ray. And then a little pontoon boat. drivers, they're all the same. The good news is that the lock master and a couple of guys in lock, since we were in there an hour and a half, had some time to talk to them, was that they're saying that traffic on the system, at least down their end, is down a good 30%. Said usually they'll do 30 or plus boats a day through the lockages, so 10-15 lockages, and he says they're down to maybe on a busy day 20, and he says right now this should be the busiest time of year as we are towards the end of July. People are on holidays, kids are out of school, as he was mentioning. He said not seeing any families driving, taking boats through, and doesn't know why, but as everybody else is suggesting, surmising, probably has something to do with the fuel prices. But again, that's a good thing for us, because hopefully it will leave open space for us at the places where we would like to visit, including the next lock coming up, which is Lower Brewers Lock. And Lockmaster is saying that what he heard, there was nobody there right now. So if we can tie up on the bottom side, they have electricity, hydropower, shore power hookup, which would be phenomenal, because it is super hot and it's supposed to be a rain day tomorrow. So we spend 2 nights there. So we'll see what it's like when we get there. Hopefully it's open and available. Now this body of water is called River Styx. No, not the rock band from the 1970s. No, not the body of water that transports one into hell from Greek mythology. But maybe, I don't know, maybe they were rock bands, or maybe just philosophers who named this. But this is the River Styx, even though it looks like a lake. It's broad like a lake, but as you can see, it is a very narrow passage all the way through. There's markers all the way along, keeping us where it is safe, because what I've read is that when this was formed, this body of water, essentially a lake, but it had been a river. So when they created the system here and they flooded everything, they pretty much left all the trees that were in what would have been forest back in the day, and they just left them. And so to this day, it's all full of tree stumps and birdies sticking out of the water or they're standing on the stumps. And this is an observation I made with the anchor girl, is that the docks of the houses or cottages that would just pass by don't have any boats on them. So I'm guessing they were just for to go fishing or go swimming off of close to shore. Otherwise, if you're boating through here as a local, you're going to be stuck to the channel. I hear that boat a-coming, it's rolling around the bend. That structure over there is the Joyceville Medium Security Facility, and that one is still operational, unlike the one that we passed earlier on our way just before we hit Kingston. Is the old Kingston Penitentiary, the infamous Kingston Pen. Now that structure is still standing, but the facility itself, insofar as being a correctional facility, was closed a number of years ago because it was so old. It was built in the 1800s, and I think it's well beyond its prime. But the thing of it is that there was a lot of, again, famous, infamous Canadian crime figures that were incarcerated there. A lot of bad people served a lot of time there. And right now it is open to the public as a museum. And Anchor Girl and I have talked about, how nice it would be to do that and take the tour. But we would have to do that in the non-boating season. So maybe we'll do that one winter, in the winter. I don't know. Have to drive out, get a hotel room, and do that. As long as we get somebody to watch your little kitty cat. Now, I do believe this is coming up to the approach to the Lower Brewers Lock, which we're hoping to get a spot at this evening, or this afternoon, or when we get there. But I just want to make mention that if you're interested to see a little bit more about the Rideau Canal, I came across by chance a YouTube channel by a gentleman by the name of CJ Hoyle, and he has, I believe it is, a 10-part series of him canoeing all the way from Kingston right up to Ottawa. If I remember, I will leave a link in the description. Check it out if you're interested to see a little bit more about what he has to show. It's kind of neat. I thought it was really cool the way he did it, and it was interesting to see, you know, from his perspective and his lifestyle and how he prepared meals and everything else. It was nice. It was cool.